Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, ModzvilleUSA here, back with another video. And today I want to be showing off and talking about my 90,000 series PS2 Slim, the final revision of the PS2. And this is a 512 megabyte build using a PS2 MC2SIO, the new memory card reader. USB drive goes in, or it is a SD card reader for the PS2 that has much better transfer speeds than USB, so you can load up an SD card with a bunch of games and play them from OPL. And I just wanted to do a quick little video here, as there's a bit of confusion, misinformation, etc., saying that this exploit does not work in the 90K series PS2s. However, that is not the case. These totally work. What does not work in the 90K series is FreeDVDBoot. Never has worked. So I think that is where some of that misinformation is coming. You can absolutely get into OPL on a 90K series PS2 using a different exploit method other than FreeDVDBoot. However, you do need a Magic Gate legitimate PS2 memory card to use these specific versions of OPL for whatever reason. All that information seems correct. It doesn't have FreeDVDBoot on it. It just has OPL named boot.elf in the boot folder, the format that all Modchips like to use, and it works just fine. I couldn't get it working on any aftermarket memory cards that I have, so that is worth keeping in mind there. So if you want a full overview of the PS2 MC2SIO, or the alternative, this is the AliExpress version of it, the MX4SIO. Whichever version you pick up, get this from Helder. I'll have a link below. Get these all over AliExpress. It should have similar results. I'd recommend keeping it, support an American company if you can. These are $20. But if you really like the injection mold style here, these are available as well. So yes, check out MrMario2011s video on the MC2SIO if this is all news to you, or Macho Nachos. They both did really good overviews about this mod. This is more targeted at just talking about my build for the 90K and what options you have for the 90K revision PS2. So I went with a mod chip. We'll talk about that in a second, but first I'd like to show you the different alternatives if you just want to get it working and you don't want to go crazy with a mod chip. There's other ways. They're just not as clean, not as good, but they will get the job done if that's all you care about. So one option, this is a newer exploit. It's called Open Tuna. Come on over to the GitHub. I'll have this linked. And essentially, what this is it's kind of I think it's kind of like a save game exploit. Like you go into your memory card, it kind of like crashes, and then it'll boot up whatever it is you're trying to boot there. So follow a guide for Open Tuna, and you can get this working just fine. Another option is FreeDVDBoot. You can burn a disk, and that disk will boot you to uLaunch Elf. From there, you can boot up OPL, be just fine. And as far as setting up the SD card, I'd recommend following Mr. Mario's video on USB, playing off of USB. Everything is exactly the same. It's just you're using an SD card instead of a USB drive. And you do need specific versions of OPL which you can find over here on Helder Games. He's got the memory card listing here for FreeDVDBoot. You can come on in here, and you're going to want to grab the OPL and FreeDVDBoot installation set, and you're also going to want to grab this Ps2 So this is for 75,000 and up. That includes 90,000, and I can confirm that I did need this version of OPL as opposed to the one that comes with the OPL and FreeDVDBoot installation set. These are installation set. These are specifically made with the MC2SIO in mind. So they're specific builds of OPL to work properly with this. So I'd recommend getting these. So you will have this folder here in the zip, and you will have this other zip here. So we'll go over the setup, but essentially what you need to do is put it on a FAT32 USB drive, get into ULaunch on your PS2, plug in your memory card. OPL goes on the root of your memory card. This is just kind of a config setup here. And OPNP-S2LD2.elf. For the Modchip setup, Modchips always look at boot in the boot folder and boot.elf, so this will go for my config. This goes in the boot folder, and rename it as boot.elf. That'll work with any Modchip setup that you got going there. So yeah, that is the software side. We'll go in a bit more depth in a moment. Now, before I showcase and show you what's going on with the build here, I would like to just talk to you about why I went with the Modchip over Tuna or FreeDVDBoot, the easier to set up alternatives. One, with a Modchip, you get access to region-free playback. This is a Japanese console, so I would need that anyway if I'm going to be playing US games. Region-free, you play burn discs, PS1 or PS2. And you also get convenient access to booting homebrew like OPL or ULaunch. All you need to do is, like I said before, you put that elf file, you name it boot.elf, you put it in a boot folder on your memory card, you plug it in, and you can access it. So I'm using the Mars Pro. With the Mars Pro, if you hold triangle when booting up the console, it will search the boot folder for boot.elf. Once it finds it, it'll boot that application. So you can set it to whatever you want. If you want to do it ULaunch and then load OPL from there and have access to booting all sorts of other applications from ULaunch, you can do that. I just like going straight to OPL. So the way this setup functions is I've got this guy in there. If I want to boot into the browser, play a burn game, play a out of region game, play whatever PS1, PS2 game I want from a disc, boot it up, the functions like normal, put in the disc, and since it's a Mars Pro, it doesn't auto detect the type. So if it's a PS2 disc, you hit reset, and then it boots into that PS2 disc. If it's a PS1 or a region free, any region DVD movie, you hit reset twice, it'll boot that disc. Then if I want to boot to OPL, I hold triangle. Boots right into OPL because I have it set up properly on my memory card. The Matrix Infinity clones, like the Modbo or this Matrix Infinity 1.99, any of those clones, you can set it to boot directly to the memory card through the Matrix menu, or same setup as this, you just hold R1 or L1. I think it's R1 on boot. I'll double check that, and that'll boot to the same location, the boot/boot.elf, or you can set it to boot there directly, and then the opposite, you'd hold I think X to get into the browser on boot. So that is a nice option. Now I have both of these mod chips for sale, ModzvilleUSA.com. I'll have a link to each of these chips if you want to get yourself a Modchip. And if you want a more in-depth breakdown of the various Modchips and Modchips clones for PS2, their pros, their cons, etc., let me know in the comments and I'll do a thorough breakdown. But essentially, the Matrix Infinity has way more features. I went with the Mars Pro specifically because PS1 boot animation is intact. It is not there on the Matrix Infinities, and the Matrix Infinity clones, the PS1 support can be a little bit spotty. You don't have that PS1 boot up animation, and that's I wanted it, so I went with this. Does everything I need to do for this build. If I want to play a PS1 disc, I get that nice, sexy PS1 boot up animation, so that's why I went with the Mars Pro in this build. Do it with either any of these Modbo Matrix Infinity clones, it doesn't matter. You can get the same build. I just chose Mars Pro because I wanted that PS1 boot up animation. So let me show you the build. We talked a lot about how it works, so I'll show you the setup. We'll boot up a disc, and then we'll boot into OPL, and I'll show you what's going on there. So let's do that. Alright, so here's the console booting with a PS1 disc inserted. So I hit reset on it twice to toggle it to PS1 mode. That is toggling the Mars Pro Modchip to boot PS1. And there you go. You got the PlayStation boot logo. Whole reason why I went with the Mars Pro on this one. Just because I wanted that bad boy. There it is. It's reading a US disc on a Japanese console. PS1 boot animation intact. Very nice. If I want to play a disc, I can totally do that. So now let us boot into we're going to boot into OPL. I'm going to fully power down the console into standby mode, turn it back on, and hold triangle. Okay, so booting the console while holding triangle. Boots into OPL. I've got everything configured here. Nice with the retro theme. This is my favorite theme of all of the PS2 themes I've seen. And as you can see, it is the artwork. I have artwork for everything, but it's still definitely not as snappy as having a FAT with a hard drive setup with a 2 terabyte SATA, OEM network adapter converted. You can see that artwork. It's a lagging. So it's, no matter how you cut it, it's a bit of a gimmicky build. It's much better than USB, but it's still nowhere near as good as a hard drive. Just how it is, and compatibility, at least currently, is not as good either. But it's pretty neat if you have a slim and you want to have a bunch of games on a hard drive, you can get it going. So this is my build. I'm just skimming through it a little bit. A 512 build. Pretty happy with it. We got a lot of bangers on there. Pretty nice, pretty good. So let's boot a game. And again, not all games are going to work, but the ones that do work quite well. So let's go with Haunting Ground. A little laggy there. I'm gonna get a couple debug colors. Okay, I got it to boot up. So for whatever reason it hung up. It wouldn't boot. But I hit triangle over the game, deleted the configuration settings, gave it a go, and it booted up just fine. That seems to help quite a bit for some games that won't launch. But yeah. So check it out. As you can see, the FMV playback is working pretty damn perfectly on this game. If it was USB it would be all choppy and shitty just because it's USB 1.1. FMV playback is awful when using USB, so this is a definite, like, massive step up from a USB build. However, it's definitely not as good as an internal hard drive build on a FAT. It's closer, and it might actually get there with software updates, but currently it's just it's still just not as good as an internal hard drive, but much closer than USB. USB is straight up just not even worth doing. So yeah, very good. So anyways, dudes, let me show you the software setup just real quick, so you know how this build goes. If you have a mod chip, I'll just show you how to configure everything in uLaunch-Elf. Alright, dudes, so I've got a FAT32 formatted USB drive here plugged into my computer, and I've got a little folder made here, that MC2SIO files, and we're just going to set up just an exact replica of what we'll be transferring to the memory card. So these are the files that we downloaded from Helter's free McBoot listing page here. Top one is the OPL free McBoot installation zip, and the bottom one is the OPNP SDLD2, which is OPL specifically for a 75K or later PS2 Slim. So this OPL folder here, these are just some config files. So we're going to transfer those over, and on the root of our memory card, we're going to need a folder called boot. We're going to paste this OPNP S2LD2.elf in the boot folder here. We're going to name that to boot. Alright, then I'm going to plug this into my PS2. Okay, now to get into uLaunch-Elf, I went ahead and burned a copy of FreeDVDBoot. Probably the most convenient way to do that. And because it's a Mars Pro, I need to the FreeDVDBoot. It essentially tricks the console into booting like a movie DVD as a game. So for the Mars Pro, I had to hit reset twice, as that's for PS1 and DVD movies, to switch to that mode to get this to boot. Matrix Infinity Clone, it'll auto detect that. You don't need to deal with anything like that. So okay, so we've got mass here going into the files I transferred, MC2SIO files. I'm hitting X to select them each. R1 circle is enter. X is back, Japanese controls here. So we're going to go back, copied. And we're going to our memory card. Got a fresh memory card here. Pasting. Okay. So as you can see, we've got the OPL folder now with the config files, all of that. And then on boot, we've got boot.elf, and that is the OPL, the 2 version. So it's that simple. And yeah, now if I reset the console, holding triangle, it'll boot to OPL. And again, you can set this to any ELF file you want. You can have this be uLaunch-Elf, whatever it is you want. But for this build, I'm just going straight into OPL. That's what I wanted. You can tweak this as you like. But yeah, that's about it for software. So I didn't shoot the shoot a video of me installing this mod chip. I just kind of did it. But here are the install pics for this console here. It's a 90K, so it's a bit gnarlier. You got to do these Mechacon wires here. But yeah, just like this. And the Mars Pro's kind of rad because it's got the it's got these pads on the back, which are really nice for the 90K model. So you don't need to go around to the other side of the board. So the Mechacon wires are everything on this side of the board goes to the back side of the PCB, and then on the other side it all goes right there. Very slick. I like the Mars Pro layout. It's pretty dope. Pretty fun to install. But yeah, follow me on Twitter and Instagram if you're into, you know, just modding pics. Do a lot of these PS2 mod chips and try to make them look nice and take pictures and all that crap. And yeah, I'm gonna do a video. I just got this bad boy recent. I got this guy, a legit Matrix Infinity, and a legit DMS4. So I'll probably do some mod chip installs for those. And I'm thinking about doing a new series, like legendary mod chips. I've been collecting old like circa 2000, mid 2000 mod chips, like PS2 mod chips and some Cobra mod chips for GameCube. So thinking about doing like a series, just going over like the different like badass old school like mod chips that are hard to get now. X3 for Xbox, etc. Yeah, let me know if you'd be interested in a series like that. But yeah, whole point of this video, totally possible to set up a 90K Slim. Don't need a mod chip, but it makes the user experience much nicer once it's all set up than having to use Open Tuna or FreeDVDBoot, in my personal opinion, to just be able to boot straight into OPL once you have it all configured. And yeah, that's how you do it. Totally worth doing. It's a bit gimmicky. If you only have one option, get a fat PS2, load up a 2 terabyte, and you're going to have a better experience than with this. But this is definitely an improvement from USB. And if you've got a Slim that you want to load with games, this is your best bet at the moment. So yeah, links to everything down below. Thanks for stopping by. Leave a like if you liked it, and subscribe if you want to see some more modding content down the line, because it's coming. I got a lot on the back burner, just need to edit it. ModzvilleUSA signing out. Thanks for stopping by.
Back, I say what to do.